So much hype, so much anticipation, so much energy. The vibe was incredible last night. All about the Jets v. Bills. So we get into it, and what happens? I mean, that really did not happen, right? There's no way that football game was real, right? We had to all be dreaming or tripping. It's kind of like we all took too much Ambien last night, and instead of going to sleep, we just hallucinated the most absurd and unfathomable series of events that could possibly ever transpire on a football field. Absurd and unfathomable, even though I've been talking about and worried about this very possibility all summer. We covered multiple injury scares for Aaron Rodgers this offseason, first during minicamp and then during actual camp. And for all the hype and anticipation and excitement around that team, which was clearly warranted. I mean, they showed it last night. All along, I always added the caveat, as long as Aaron stays healthy. As long as he stays healthy. But there was always the most important thing there, that, and always the biggest risk. But 4 snaps? 4 freaking snaps. You cannot be serious. The dude took all of 4 snaps. All of 4 snaps before his Achilles snapped. And just like that, it's over? Only moments earlier, Aaron's running around MetLife with the American flag, and the place is louder than a Taylor Swift concert. It feels like it's about to explode. Like, I'm not sure I've ever seen that joint like that. It was like Jet fan never felt a high so high. I don't even know that the Super Bowl felt like that, or looked like that, or had that kind of hype. So Jet fan had never felt so high. And yet a few seconds later, it all came crashing down. Jet fan felt the highest high and the lowest low, and it happened essentially seconds apart, which I would call par for the course for a Jet fan. But even Jet fan will tell you this one was especially devastating. I mean, it is really the most Jets thing ever, right? It's the most Jets thing that has ever happened. And it's the most bittersweet win that I think I've ever seen. Oh, yeah, by the way, the Jets won this game. Somehow, some way. They lose Aaron 4 snaps in, and they still somehow beat the Bills on opening night of Monday Night Football. So I guess you might say that it was the worst amazing night ever, or the best horrible night ever, or again, just the most Jets night ever. Jet fan finally got to see a legit enormous win on an enormous stage in prime time and can't even enjoy it because, let's face it, as good as the rest of the team looked last night, they're not winning bleep with the Coug Hunter. The rest of the Jets showed us who we thought they were. They were ready for prime time. Playmakers all over the field. An incredible defense. We saw what they were about. And then Zach Wilson showed us what he's about. Zach Wilson is still Zach Wilson. I mean, credit to the Coug Hunter for getting them down the field and into the end zone to tie it up with 5 minutes left. But way, 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 way more credit to Garrett Wilson for somehow coming up with an instant classic of a catch. Exactly my thought. Both those things. 1, that kid is amazing. And 2, there's no way he caught that. That kid is amazing, and there's no way he caught that. One of the best catches you were ever going to see. And not just because it was wild and just like insanely clutch, but because it was basically offense and defense in the very same play. Dude starts off trying to keep the ball away from Trey White, and then somehow ends up catching it after a double tip to himself. It's a week 1 catch of the year candidate, and there's no way the Jets win that game without that play. But even then, they still needed overtime after Buffalo managed to doink in the game-tying field goal at the end of regulation, which was just another devastating kick in the stick to Jet fan. And at that point, Jet fan had to think, this brutal night, already one of the worst nights ever, after that doink fell through, because you knew it would against them, they had to know that that was going to be the end of one of the most brutal nights ever, until undrafted rookie Xavier Gipson jogs out there to return the first punt of OT, and he housed it. I mean, absolutely incredible, right? Surreal, right? Not just to walk off that game on that night like that, but for it to be an undrafted rookie who barely made the team. I love everything about that moment. And listen to this dude after the game. It is impossible not to be all about this dude. What a great line. I felt like I was going to pass out because I ain't nothing but a $150. I totally get where the guy was coming from. I felt like I was going to pass out, and all I did was sit in my home office and watch that game. Big Quinnen Williams. He ain't nothing but more than a $150. He was also impressed with the little dude. So impressed that he was letting the F-bombs fly after the game. So these dudes in this team are so much fun. These dudes and this team are so much fun, which brings us all right back down again. Because as soon as you start to enjoy how that game ended, you immediately remember how that game started. And I hate everything about how that game started. I love everything about how that game ended, but I hate everything about how that game started. I love the entire stadium exploding again after essentially being a morgue for almost the entire night. I love Bob Saleh being the first guy in the end zone to celebrate with Gipson. When was the last time you saw a head coach sprint into the end zone and dogpile a guy who just won a game? Only Saleh could pull that off. Really a tough night, though, for Robert Receipts. I mean, the dude's face in the first half said it all. He looked like he just watched somebody set his dog on fire. It was like we were watching his soul leaving his body in real time, which is why it's so impressive that he kept that team in the fight and somehow managed to turn that disaster of a night into an incredible win. And also, not just him, but Aaron's teammates. They were going to win that game for him. They were not going to let that game get away. They made it clear, we got you. We're going to win that game for you. So an incredible win, but an incredible win that does not erase the epic disaster. There's just no way around it, right? Last night was an epic disaster for the Jets. I'm not saying give up on the season, but I am saying give up on the Lombardi. I can say that. Because as amazing as that win was, losing Aaron Rodgers still made that game a net loss. A gigantic net loss. Because from what we saw last night, the rest of that team may have made them a legit Super Bowl contender. But they're not anymore. Period. They're not. They're not. They can't bring in anybody that will make them so, and they're not with the Kook Hunter, which is heartbreaking and devastating, which is why Bob Saleh sounded heartbroken and devastated after the game. Listen, unless you're here to do nothing but hate, unless you're extremely petty, I think on some level this is where we all come out. Even the Aaron haters want to see this dude play on this team. Even people who despise the Jets still got robbed of seeing how this was going to play out. So I don't know whether or not this is the end for Aaron Rodgers. I just know there is no way in hell that guy wants to go out that way. But the road to Achilles recovery for a 39-year-old is not easy. We know this. And we have no idea what he might look like at age 40 on a repaired Achilles. I want to say he's going to make it back for sure. But we just don't know that. And then even if he does come back, we don't know what that's going to look like. All I can say is, without having spoken to him, without hearing a word from him, and knowing that guy a little bit, there is no way in hell he wants to go out like that. I always say this on this show. I've said this a million times. Athletes rarely ever get to go out on their own terms. For a fact, there is no way that guy, one of the best ever, wants to go out like that. No chance. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if once he gets over the shock, has a day or two or however long it takes to kind of sit with the why me, what if, that he'll get back to work. I think. Because there's no way he's going to want to go out like that. In the meantime, I will, for one of the only times, allow the take that this is something that sucks. Because it does suck. And it's not anybody's fault. If you're looking to assess blame, to me, it's nobody's fault. It's a freak thing that happened in a sport where freak things often happen. People are trying to blame the offensive line. You know, if I was lazy, I could roll in with that take and say that, well, the line was the Jets' Achilles heel all along. The line was a real issue. I could do that, but it seems kind of lazy and not even fair. Dwayne Brown, who had been out, tried to cut block on the fateful play because the ball was supposed to come out quickly. For whatever reason, the ball did not come out quickly. I'm not saying that Brown made the best block, but I'm saying he gets beat. It's nobody's fault. The Achilles explodes. It's just one of those insane freak things that happens in an insane freak sport. Unfortunately for Jet fan, that insane freak thing ruined what could have been one of the most amazing nights ever to start one of the most exciting seasons in franchise history. And that's got to be pretty much the most Jets thing that has ever happened, right? Yeah, bottom line, I've been avoiding the Aaron Rodgers video because now that we know the extent of the injury, I don't need to see the super slow-mo extreme close-ups of Aaron's calf and whether or not it's pulsating and his Achilles snapping like a guitar string. I don't need that. I do want to give credit to the Jets secondary, especially Jordan Whitehead and his 3 picks. I'd spend more time on his performance, but I'm afraid it's only going to result in a bunch of zit tweets. You know, like, hey, Rome, I know how Josh Allen feels. I hate Whiteheads too. Signed, Justin Herbert. Or, hey, Rome, I've always had a problem with the Whitehead. Signed, Joe Burrow's nose. So what do? Do we bring out a list of quarterback replacements now? Do we debate each one? Do we hold that off until tomorrow for a topic? Or maybe have you guys give me your own lists. Hey, Rome, there's a lot of guys out there. Colt McCoy, Josh Johnson, clone favorite, Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, Blake Bortles, Joe Flacco, Carson Wentz, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan. I'm going to make the list simple. I can tell you who I don't want. I can tell you who's not coming. Bacon 46. Let's not do that, all right? Let's not do that retire, unretire thing again, please. The Jets have options, except they're all terrible. But Bacon 46 is not coming out of retirement to play in the same division against the Patriots. You saw him hanging out in the opener with Bob Kraft. He's not doing that. He's not coming out of retirement to play for somebody against them. In fact, he's not coming out of retirement, period. You can all stop with that bullcrap right now. Joe Namath will quarterback the Jets this year before Bacon 46 will. Not happening. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell to be the first to know when we do upload a new video.